Hello, all you Breen privateers out there, and welcome to Undeclared Bajor. My name is Fletcher, about to say hello is Data.
Hey.
Today we're going to discuss and review Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 4, Episode 23? I forgot what it was called.
Is that the question? Yes, 23. It's called
To the Death. Yeah. I wrote down my alternate title, but not the real title. Alternate title, The Wayun of the Warrior.
That's good. See, as soon as I saw the title, I was like, no, to the pain. And, we got to make the Princess Bride reference. So that would be my alternate title.
As always, you can expect full spoilers up through the episode being discussed, a possible small number of minor spoilers for later in the series, which we'll try to keep to an appropriate minimum. And we will find one major movie or something that you haven't seen and spoil it. So,
like The Princess Bride. If you haven't seen that was a spoiler for the end.
Yeah. Inigo Montoya does get his revenge. So.
Ouch. Yep.
To the Death originally aired May 13th, 1996, and it was written by the dynamic duo back together again, ISB and RHW, Ira Stephen Bear, Robert Hewitt Wolf. After Robert Hewitt Wolf's solo passion project, and Ira Stephen Bear did one with a different partner one time, didn't he?
Yeah, it was like the episode right after the one that Robert Hewitt Wolf did on his own.
So, but now they're back together again, and they've written an episode, and it was directed by LeVar Burton. So, action Barbie action, but it's a normal day at the end of a routine mission at Worf's house, aka the Defiant.
Yep. The
crew make chit-chat in the mess hall. Bashir tries to take Worf's favorite seat, but quickly backs down when Worf shows up.
Yeah, I do like, when Worf's not in the room, he's like, whatever.
Yeah.
He didn't get to pick his seat just because he lives here. And then Worf just stares at him, and he's like, I'm just messing with you, I'll leave.
At least make him, ask for the seat. I mean.
I know, that was my thing. I was like, yeah, just sit there and eat your food until he says something. Like, well, how are you supposed to interpret his, because the chair's not labeled. If it hadn't been for Dax and O'Brien telling Bashir, then he would have had no idea when Worf showed up and just stared at him like, what the hell was going on?
I mean, maybe it is labeled. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, it could be. You just didn't see it.
But Worf gets to his favorite seat, and he's about to drink his extra-large prune juice when an alert sounds. Returning to Deep Space Nine, they find that one of the upper pylons has been blown up.
It's a very dramatic shot where it's like, holy crap, the station really took some damage this time.
Oh my gosh. I hope nobody was having a romantic picnic up there.
I bet there was like 5 romantic picnics going on in that upper pylon.
I bet the ones in the other upper pylons had a good view, though.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh, wow, look at that. Aboard the station, Kira manages the crisis. Quark looks for Rom and is assured that he's still alive, although they don't want to pay Rom to actually be in the episode, so we don't actually see him. And then that's the last we see of Kira and Quark. Well, the Defiant crew shows up and Kira gives the report that Jim Hadar raided the station, and then they stole some science equipment, and then they blew up the upper pylon and flew away.
In a, non-Jim Hadar ship.
Right. So Dax is like, oh, I bet their ion trail is still good. Or something, and so Sisko and crew immediately beam back to the Defiant to chase them down. So they go to the Gamma Quadrant. The cloaked Defiant soon follows the ion trail to a damaged Jim Hadar warship, not matching the description of the ship Kira reported the attackers came in.
No.
So they deduce the culprits must have attacked this Jim Hadar ship as well.
I do like, by the way, that You used Breen privateers for the opening, but then didn't mention the one-time Breen privateers are mentioned in the episode itself.
Right. Yeah. So they were out protecting a Bajoran colony from Breen privateers or something like that. I don't know. We don't really know much about what was going on with that, but it seems like they didn't have any problems.
I do like how much Bajor just is colonizing since the fall of the occupation or whatever.
Yeah, it's like pretty soon Bajor is going to have this massive empire and everybody's going to be like, oh, wait.
Man, we should have paid more attention to that. Really, it's probably more like, we don't have nearly enough food on Bajor for all these people. We got to get rid of some of them. Make them colonists.
Yeah, go over there and farm your own stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't quit bothering us. We only have 2 Class 4 industrial replicators. So they detect 7 life signs on the Jem'Hadar ship and beam them aboard, making sure to remove their weapons in transport. Pretty standard move.
Good. Yeah.
So they go to the transporter room and find a squad of Jem'Hadar who immediately begin trash talking, which they don't stop doing the entire episode.
Nope, just keeps going. Where do you think that removed weapons go? Do they beam them somewhere else, or are they just like in the pattern buffer until later?
I was wondering that too, because I was like, why don't they just give them their weapons back? But I think they must just go away permanently.
Hopefully none of them was, a family heirloom or
right.
Had a lot of sentimental value.
Those sentimental Jem'Hadar.
Yeah.
But I mean, hey, be happy to get off that ship with your life.
Yeah, they have absolutely no gratitude. In fact, exactly the opposite, where it's like they're gonna regret the mistake of saving our lives.
Yeah, it's like that's where I would just be like, oh, okay, goodbye, and then beam them back to the ship, and then continue.
We'll go ahead and fix that mistake right now.
Right. It's like, okay, you're still like trapped in the force field around the transporter, right? So anyway, yeah, they're trash talking, and then a voice from somewhere goes, oh my god, shut up. And Avorta, clutching a case of Ketracel White, shoves his way to the front and asks for a private meeting with Sisko.
So is this the first time that we connect, like, the face of this race with the name of this race, or had we done that at this point?
I mean, I think it might actually be.
Because several times, I know, as we've done these episodes, I have made the mistake of referring to them as Vorta, and you're like, oh, wait, we didn't learn that yet.
Yeah, I know. So it is. I think Weyoun is addressed as a Vorta.
Yeah, it's definitely mentioned in the episode that he is a Vorta.
I mean, I think by now, even if they didn't specifically say it, it was probably at least deduced by the average Deep Space Nine viewer that those guys are the Vorta. But so anyway, this guy whose name we eventually learn is Weyoun, although they say it like, I think they just say it later. He doesn't introduce himself, does he?
Oh, I don't recall. I mean, it seems like the kind of thing he would do, right? It's to like instantly be like, hey, I'm so-and-so, but yeah, I don't remember.
Yeah. No, because at first he has to flex all his knowledge about Sisko.
That's true. Yep.
And then he does a quick gambit of offering to make Sisko the king of the Federation, which Sisko's like, no.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the point of that was. Like, I find it hard to believe that he legit thought that might work. And when Sisko's instantly like, yeah, clearly you don't know me as well as you claim, which that almost seems to put you in a worse position, because he just made the big brag about knowing all about Sisko, and then he does something that clearly indicates to Sisko that he doesn't actually know all about me. So, like, why make that combo mistake? I don't know.
I just got the sense maybe the standing orders are, if you run into Sisko and get a chance to have a private chat with him, offer to make him king of the Federation. Because he even looks, he's like, yeah, I know, I had to try.
I mean, yeah, once Sisko calls him out on it, he's like, hey, just doing my job, man. Yeah. Like, no big.
They're kind of a weird bunch, the Dominion. But yeah, so Weyoun explains the situation. So the attacks were carried out by rogue Jem'Hadar, which is that's a thing that happens surprisingly often, it seems like.
Yeah, given what we are always told about the Jem'Hadar and their unswerving loyalty, it is strange how often this has happened. And these are just the times that, like, Sisko has personally run into it.
Right. Well, I mean, Sisko wasn't there when they were on the planet of...
Oh, well, yeah, that's true. I guess the crew of Deep Space Nine have personally run into it.
But these Jem'Hadar were assigned to guard an excavation and restoration of an Iconian gateway. You remember the Iconian gateways from that Season 2 episode of Next Generation?
I sure do. And so does Worf.
I sure didn't.
It comes up later.
But I went back and watched the episode, so I'm all caught up.
The funny thing is, like, the the prop or the set design people did not, I think, because
Right.
hold on, let me go to the section in here where it talks about it, because an error led to the staff confusing the Iconians with the Takan Empire from the episode The Last Outpost, where we first meet the Ferengi on the Next Generation. And so the graphics for the set were designed around the Takan. The error was noticed the day before filming began, and corrected graphics were completed in time for the episode.
Huh.
Which, I mean, we hadn't heard about the Iconians or the Takan since those Next Generation episodes. So, although in the recent game, Star Trek Resurgence, is that what it's called? The Telltale style game that came out, the Takan feature very largely in that game.
Wow. Anyway, the Jem'Hadar went rogue and are now trying to rebuild the gateway themselves. I guess they got impatient and didn't want to wait for the scientists to do it. So they just killed the scientists and now they're going to do it themselves.
Yeah, I'm sure that's much easier than letting the scientists do it.
But of course, once the gateway gets close to being completed, probably lots of more Dominion people would be showing up. So maybe they're like, we must seize it now or something. I don't know. But Weyoun predicts with the gateway, they will be able to get more Jem'Hadar, overthrow the Dominion, and then the entire galaxy. So it's pretty bad.
Yep.
Sisko asks why the Founders don't just order the Jem'Hadar to surrender, and Weyoun is like, well, about that. That's not always so much a real thing.
Although, according to the guy later, it's like, no, we are 100% loyal to the Founders and don't need the crap that is always being pulled on us to keep us loyal.
Yeah.
It seems directly contradicted by the rest of the episode, but whatever.
I mean, maybe it's just sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
But anyway, their objective is clear. Destroy the gateway before all that bad stuff Weyoun just said happens. Sisko confers with his crew. Worf mentions being on the mission, where they found the first Iconian gateway, and reminds us that they destroyed it to keep it from falling into the hands of the Romulans.
And apparently the Federation was like, good job.
Yeah, it's like, we had the full support of the Federation. O'Brien, who was also on that mission and played an important role, decides not to say anything. I'll let Worf have this moment.
he needs a win. He didn't get his prune juice earlier.
Even though he was the one who... wait, what happened? Oh yeah, that's right. They tried to... Yeah, they were trying to beam off the planet, and they couldn't. So they used the gateway to get back onto the Enterprise.
Yep.
And then Picard went through the gateway, but he wound up on the Romulan ship. But somehow O'Brien was able to beam him off the Romulan ship onto the Enterprise.
Yeah, super fortunately, as the gateway was cycling through the infinities of the universe or whatever, It landed on those two things.
I was watching it, I was like, oh man, it would be so cool if he goes through the gateway and he winds up on some crazy planet somewhere.
Yeah.
And we end the episode with we gotta go pick up Picard from this remote planet where he wound up on.
Or you just end the episode, where did he go? We don't know. And then the next episode, Q shows up and he's like, hey, you want me to give you a lift? It'll cost you.
Yeah, have a little continuing story out of it.
You have to be Robin Hood when I want to be the Sheriff of Nottingham.
Okay. We got to do Robin Hood again. It's like, oh, what? I forget if that was before or after the Robin Hood episode. I think it was after, or it was before.
I feel like it was probably before, but I don't actually know.
Yeah. It was a Pulaski episode also.
Oh, well then, yeah, it was way before.
Yeah. Anyway, so they decide that if they didn't want the Romulans having a gate, they probably don't want some rogue Jem'Hadar having one either.
Nope.
So they guess they'll make the deal with the devil and work with Weyoun and his Jem'Hadar, but they're going to keep the Jem'Hadar working for Weyoun from knowing about the gate so that they don't get any sneaky ideas because they don't trust them. Long story short. So anyway, Sisko has a meeting with the Jem'Hadar first, Ometiclan, and gives him the I'm the big dog around here speech, and then Ometiclan is just like, yeah, whatever.
But he's like, yeah, okay, for now.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, we'll see about that. Then everybody assembles for a big joint briefing, and then O'Brien is like, all right, let's go to the planet where the gate is. I mean, where the rogue Jem'Hadar who rebelled for no reason are camping. Shoot a few 100 megaton quantum torpedoes at it and call it a day. And Wei-Yun is like, nope, can't do that. The building is made of neutronium.
I'd be like, yeah, but are all the Jem'Hadar scouting around the exterior of the building also made of neutronium?
I don't know. You can't shoot at a building made of neutronium. It just won't work. So we have to go in and have a big, exciting up-close battle. And then Ira Stephen Bear and Robert Hewitt Wolf are like dusting off their hands. They're like, that'll do nicely. One of the Jem'Hadar is like, can't wait to punish those people who broke their oath to the founders, and then looks meaningfully at Odo. And then Odo's like, dude, shut up.
Yeah, these are some bold, like, just totally calling Odo out, even though he's one of their gods, theoretically. Like, that's bold.
Well, yeah, Omediclon has his speech about how it's not his job to judge a god, but if a god has been cast out from heaven, he will bring that god back to be judged or something like I don't know. Then one of the Jem'Hadar is also like, oh yeah, and Klingons suck too. And Worf is like, you want to go? But Sisko and Omediclon break it up. Cut 2, a Jem'Hadar patrolling the corridors of the Defiant with a Federation phaser rifle for some reason. When Worf pops out and punches him out, which I guess this was like a training punch.
Yep.
Worf, Dax, and Odo show up in the warp core room to set up a bomb, but they get distracted by the fact that there were only 2 guards, and they obsess about it, like, for an extended period of time, and this causes them to fail what we soon find out is a training exercise. And then Omediclon shows up, he's like, you guys suck.
No respect.
Yeah. So Sisko, Wei-Yun, and Omediclon get in the turbo lift and have a little discussion where Sisko asks if the Jem'Hadar can just stop being such dicks.
The answer is no.
Yeah. Omediclon is like, well, we'll respect you more if we buddy up your people and fight together. And Wei-Yun is like, no, we can't do that because I said so. And Omediclon is like, yeah, you mean because of the gateway? Yeah, we know about that. And Sisko's like, okay, fine, mixed teams, why not? But everybody tries to stay alive. No, none of this, rushing into your death stuff. And Omediclon is like, pussy.
Yep. If you're not willing to commit suicide at the drop of a hat, then you are not worthy of, winning.
So Dax gets teamed up with some Jem'Hadar guy, and they get into a conversation about a bunch of stuff that Dax should already know. So I guess she's just kind of like humoring him or something.
Well, I don't know. We don't necessarily know that they didn't have women, or
I guess. I mean, yeah, maybe just like nobody in the Federation knows this stuff. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like we know more than most about, because we saw the Jem'Hadar kid grow up, and so like she would know that stuff. But if it wasn't something we learned there, then I don't know where we would have learned it.
Yeah, maybe. But so yeah, basically the Jem'Hadar, they don't eat, they don't sleep, they don't have women. This makes me have a few other questions, and then also Dax asks a question that I know she knows the answer to, which is, where do Jem'Hadar babies come from? And then he's like, well, we're, born in those pods, and then we grow up in 3 days, and we're ready to fight. And then he's like, when you turn 20, you join the honored elders of the Jem'Hadar. He's like, how old are you? And then she does a little flexing. She's like, well, I stopped counting at 300, so... He's like, wow.
You look good.
Yeah. He's like, yeah, you don't look it. Then Dax shares all this info she learned with Worf and Odo, and I think O'Brien is there, and they all decide that Klingon women are fun at parties. That was the ultimate, where they got to in that conversation. Then they catch Wei-Yun staring, and they're like, oh, Wei-Yun's got a crush on Odo.
And they have a big, long discussion where they rag on Wei-Yun and his weirdness, despite the fact that he is literally 2 feet away and can almost certainly hear all of this.
Oh, yeah. They don't care. It's like high school. Then the Jem'Hadar come in with the Ketracel White box, and they're like, can we have our Ketracel White? And Wei-Yun is like, no, I'm eating tater tots. But then he sighs, and he goes through the little Ketracel White distribution ritual, where he's like, please accept this gift from the founders. And they're like, oh yeah. And they like slip it in their coats.
And then the one guy is all, okay, I'm ready to practice now.
Yeah.
O'Brien, you need to be ready to practice now also. And O'Brien's like, dude, I'm drinking my coffee or whatever he was still doing.
Well, he's just not ready. He's not ready.
And this guy gives no shits about that.
Yep. So this guy's he's just being a total asshole. And then Worf snaps and starts fighting the Jem'Hadar. And then Sisko and Omediclon come in and they break up the fight again. And then the especially asshole Jem'Hadar is like, yeah, I started the fight. You want to do something about it? And then Omediclon is like, no, it's cool. Of you to die! And snaps his neck.
He does snap his neck good.
And then Sisko seems a little sheepish in comparison when he says, Worf, you go to your room.
Yep.
And then Omediclon is like, wow, you suck. I'm going to kill you when the battle is over.
So, guy who plays Jem'Hadar that got his neck snapped, I was just like, I know that I've seen this guy in Star Trek before.
He did look familiar. He reminds me of a guy that was on the X-Files. I don't know if it's the same guy, but
so here, let's see if he was on the X-Files. He's been in lots of stuff. Okay, probably best known in his role as alien bounty hunter on the X-Files.
Okay, yeah.
But before this, he's appeared as two different Klingons, it seems like. And where I recognized him from is he's the guy that Quark is negotiating with for the Tullaberry wine, like the red-faced guy with blue dots or whatever from the Dosai, who like can't give him enough Tullaberry wine. So I had to go back and look. I'm like, that's where he's from. Okay, got it.
The red dot people.
Yeah,
I totally recognize it now. So Odo is strolling down the corridor and gets cornered by Weyoun. Is like, the Founders wanted me to tell you they still love you and they want you to come home. And Odo's like, no, go away. And then Weyoun is like, I live to serve you. And then walks off while Odo looks on confused or thoughtful or something.
Yeah, apparently during this scene, something significant happens that we never find out that this is when it happened. But sometime in the future, we find out that this thing has happened.
Gotcha.
I don't want to spoil anything, so I won't say more than that.
We'll put a, I don't know what you'd call it, like a bookmark, a reminder on this scene, and we'll revisit it later. Then O'Brien gives Dax a message for Keiko and Molly in case he doesn't make it. So the standard, give this letter to my wife scene.
Mm-hmm.
And then she gives him, she teases him for a while. And she's like, I'll put it with the one I'm going to send my mother. Worf, who's supposed to be in his room, finds Sisko and tells him he heard about the Omediclon threat. And then he's like, don't worry, I'll avenge you if he does that. And Sisko's like, great.
Go to your room now.
Yeah, go back to your room. Finally, the time has come. O'Brien hands out phaser rifles, which the Jem'Hadar immediately set to maximum kill.
Yeah, they're like, these are set on stun.
What was the stupid
Idiots.
sun setting? And then Weyoun seems weirdly cheery about this joint operation. He's like, oh, yay!
Because he's not the one having to go down.
Right. He's like, the first joint mission between the Federation and the Dominion.
Apparently, in like the writing, they had several ideas. Because they started with, we want the Starfleet and some Jem'Hadar to have to work together.
Sure.
And so they went through a bunch of different ideas, not most of which are not noted here, about like what could that entail. And he's like, we talked about like 20 different missions they could go on together. But the one that they bring up is that one of the ones that we talked about is that they have to go and kill Gowron because they find out he's a renegade shapeshifter. And we played with that for a while, but it just didn't come together.
So he's a shapeshifter has gone rogue and is just taken over the Klingons for himself?
I guess, yeah.
That would be an interesting plot.
Yeah, right? It would have made the rest of this series take a different direction if Gowron was dead. Although
it smacks a little bit of like the excuse the Klingons had for invading the Cardassians.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, well, we have to go assassinate the leader of the Klingons now because He's a changeling. Just trust us.
Oh yeah, totally could have been like an intentional misdirect to foment more conflict. That would have been.
Oh yeah, that's true.
Although you could also just turn it around the other way and be like, well, of course, the rogue shapeshifter was like, who's taken over an empire is like, uses the convenient, it's like, oh man, a shapeshifter is taking over their empire because that's, what he's in the middle of doing. So
Right.
it's just like when, two people in a relationship and the person who is actually cheating is always accusing the other person of cheating.
I see.
I am told that is a common occurrence.
Kind of in line with what the changelings have been doing. Is that the only alternate plot they?
Yeah, that's the only one that's specifically called out.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so a Metaclon gives a little speech about being dead and going into battle to reclaim their lives and all this stuff. And all the Starfleet people just kind of stand there awkwardly, waiting to go on the mission. And then the chief counters with his famous speech, I am Chief Miles Edward O'Brien. I'm very much alive, and I intend to stay that way.
Yep.
And Sisko's like, hell yeah.
We all relate to that one.
Yep.
I'm also alive and want to stay that way.
However, when the Joint Federation Jim'Hadar strike force gets down to the planet, none of their weapons are working.
And it goes bad so quickly. Because supposedly they're transporting down to this wooded area that they'll be able to, stage their operation from.
Right.
And it takes them 5 seconds to be like, hey, our guns don't work. Which, did the Jem'Hadar try to shoot them with the guns and then discover they don't work? Or was it just the lights turned off and they're like, wait, what's going on here?
Yeah, that's a good question.
And while they discuss that for literally 5 seconds, all of a sudden there's 20 Jem'Hadar that jump them. And I was like, this went bad at an impressive rate.
It's I guess there just happened to be a patrol right now, or right at that moment or something. I don't know.
It was unfortunate.
So yeah, Dax decides that the gateway must be creating some kind of dampening field, even though in the episode Contagion, when they were right next to the gateway, Worf was able to use his phaser to blow up a tricorder that had sensitive information in it. So I hope somebody got fired for that. And then suddenly they're ambushed by sword-wielding Jem'Hadar. They already figured out that their guns don't work, so they just got some swords.
Well, they've been here a while.
Yeah.
So.
And then despite the fact that they are effectively unarmed and taken completely by surprise, we easily manage to fight off the attackers.
Yep.
However, Ramirez and some guy are killed.
And I'm surprised, we see the fight, and Worf, steals somebody's sword or something. Uh-huh. And I was like, did you not bring your MacLeod? Since when do you go on missions and not have that backup?
That's a good point. So they quickly battle their way into the ziggurat, which, by the way, ziggurat is my absolute favorite word.
Sure, it's a great word.
They just kind of dropped it in that briefing scene there. It's and then we will go secure the entrance to the ziggurat. I was like, wow. That's a really specific word.
So apparently the location, of the outside of the ziggurat and the where the fight in the woods take place, was a very difficult location. Let's see. Both LeVar Burton and his first assistant director, B.C. Cameron, found directing this episode extremely difficult. Burton commented, "We had a day of location shooting that was my worst day as a director, because there was so much work and so little time. There's a huge number of people on the location, including all the Jem'Hadar, who require makeup and 2 major fight sequences that we had to stage. All were elements that felt like they conspired to just bite me in the ass." And then Cameron says, "LeVar and I went to Griffith Park's bird sanctuary the night before and walked the sets, and I remember thinking, there's no way we're going to get all this work done. We had 25 Jem'Hadar stuntmen who had 3 o'clock makeup calls. We spent the whole day at the top of the bird sanctuary, and the only way up and down is by golf cart. So the cast trailers and the honey wagon were way down below, so if anyone went down, we had to wait and wait for them to get back up again. Logistically, it was just a nightmare."
Wow. It looked like... I feel like we've seen this location a million times.
But, yeah, but probably not usually with this many extras needing
True.
This much makeup. And fight scenes always take a ridiculous long time to get right.
Yeah. So yeah, once they're deep enough inside the ziggurat, Worf drops the satchel he was carrying, which turns out to be Odo, who I guess was just being carried in satchel form.
He's lazy today.
All the way up to this point for some reason. And then, I mean, he just drops it, and then Odo gets up and punches out 3 guys. I was like, was that all just to build up for that? But
this whole sequence with all the fighting, in addition to just taking a long time, apparently there's a lot of it, and a lot of it that doesn't even didn't make it into the episode. So it says this episode was cut for violence, and that's not just, we've seen before in the UK stuff gets cut out. This is It was cut for violence in the US. 45 seconds of hand-to-hand combat was cut prior to the episode being screened.
Huh.
This displeased Ira Stephen Bear a great deal. He's saying, that really hurt the show. We built up to this battle, and now it's just perfunctory. The fans who wrote letters on the internet saw that the rhythms were thrown off. I like that they wrote letters on the internet.
Yeah.
That's a way to say that.
So were they just writing open letters and posting them on the internet? Or
I don't know. That's a really good question.
And the content of the letters was, the rhythm of the action really seemed off.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone saw it. Stunt coordinator Dennis Matalone says, in the first edited version, 52 Jem'Hadar had been killed. Dax had killed 10, and Sisko had killed 7. But when the censors got a hold of it, they took out over 32 Jem'Hadar deaths.
Wow.
Then the British Board of Film Classification cut a further 5 seconds, specifically to remove the sound of a neck being broken, and rated the episode 15. And I have to, this 15 is a link, and I have to see if this leads to an explanation of British film ratings, or if it just leads to an article on, here's what the number 15 means.
Every time the number 15 has appeared in Star Trek.
Yeah, it could happen. Oh yes, history of British film certificates.
Nice.
So 15 means suitable only for persons 15 years and over.
Okay, I feel like I could have deduced that from.
Yeah, I probably should have been able to, but I just thought, is it a numbering system? Like they have 1 to 20 for how bad it is? Or, what?
It's like it's like. 5 is okay, and then 10, oh, we're getting pretty bad. Then it's like, oh my gosh, 15.
So at this time, their rating system went Universal Children, so UC, then Universal, which is just U. UC is particularly suitable for children, and U is universal and suitable for all. So it's like, parents, you might not even want to go to this one. Then there's PG.
Sure.
Then there's 12.
Okay.
And then movies also had a 12A, which is 12 is okay, but you should be accompanied by an adult.
Okay.
Then there was 15. Then there was 18. Then there was restricted 18 to be supplied only in licensed sex shops to persons of not less than 18.
Oh, it specifically has to be sex shops.
Licensed sex shops, yes.
Yeah, gotta go apply for my sex shop license.
Yeah, it's like I run a library, but I'd like to have some other content. Maybe I should pick up a sex shop license.
It's like, yeah, get that sex shop license. That really opens up a lot of new business to you. Didn't the British edit out a bone snapping sound once before?
Yep. Yeah, there's been a couple of episodes where we found out the British edited some more out. So
yeah,
I guess there's probably a big difference from that 15 to that 18 in terms of broadcasting on television.
Anyway, so yeah, eventually they make it to the gateway room, where the gateway flips through all the establishing shot matte paintings of all our favorite planets.
Oh yeah, hold on. There's a list in here. It says we see Starfleet Command, Paris, Earth, as if Starfleet Command and Paris were not on Earth, and Bajor.
So those are the places they might be going.
Yep.
What is the functionality of these gateways? Because does it just cycle through a bunch of places and you just got to jump in right when your place comes up?
That's what we've seen. I assume that if you know how to work it, you can direct it more specifically.
Can you pause it on a place you want to go, or?
Yeah, there must be a way. And honestly, I feel like seeing that Earth and Bajor are the places that it's cycling through now. I feel like maybe the Jem'Hadar have already figured out how to direct it more towards what they would be interested in.
Oh yeah, maybe. We'll never know, because they're all about to die.
Yeah, it blows up. It's fine. Spoiler.
Spoiler for this episode. Omediclon, demonstrating less than impressive warrior instincts, stares vacantly at the floor for a while, until a rogue Jem'Hadar unshrouds and lunges at him from behind. Sisko saves Omediclon by slightly sticking his arm out and nudging him 1 inch out of the way, in a save so low effort, I'm not even sure he did it on purpose. But Omediclon is like, wow, you saved me, even after I threatened to kill you. And Sisko is like, yeah, I totally did that on purpose. That's just how awesome and honorable I am. If you don't understand, you just never will.
Yep.
Then they set the bomb and run outside, but instead of an awesome but expensive exploding ziggurat effect, the camera just shakes slightly and a generic explosion sound plays. And they're like, well, we blew up the gateway.
Yep, that's that. Fixed forever.
Then Weyoun beams down and is like, great job, guys, but Omediclon just shoots him, and Weyoun is dead.
Hey, forever. The guns work again.
Yeah. I guess that possibly confirms the hypothesis that the gate was doing that. I don't know.
Yep. Or just something else in the ziggurat was doing that.
Then one of the Jem'Hadar finds the case of Ketracel White and is like, yoink.
I mean,
I'm not quite sure how they're going to get Ketracel White out of there. Maybe hit it with a rock or
used his handprint to open it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't.
Then Omediclon is like, well, we're going to stay here and hunt down the rest of the disloyal Jem'Hadar. And then O'Brien looks at Sisko. He's like, can we leave now? And Sisko's like, yeah, let's go. The end.
We really have no reason to stay here.
It's just like we're just going right to the credits right now. Boo doo doo.
Yep. Lots of notes here about the battle and the results of that. So hold on, let me see. Terry Farrell, Action Barbie.
Sure.
Says, I killed so many Jem'Hadar warriors that they had to cut some of it out. Right. I think I killed more than Worf did. At one point, I had 3 on my sword. And I said to Dennis Madelone, our stunt coordinator, I said, maybe this is too much. And he said, no, you're Dax. That's the full sentence. You're Dax.
You're Dax.
So it's good. Then Rick Berman called and was like, there's this one part where you're holding back 3 Jem'Hadar. I thought that was a little much. I hope you don't mind that I cut that. And I was like, I don't mind at all, because it was completely unrealistic. If I can't beat Worf, then there's no way I'm beating 3 Jem'Hadar at once.
Yeah, I mean, well, that was the thing is, like, these Jem'Hadar they were fighting seem to kind of suck.
Yeah, yep.
So there's all this build up to, like, what amazing warriors these guys are, and, like, you weak Federations and even Klingons are no match for them. And then they go down, and, like, even when they're all jumped by guys who have the power of invisibility and they have swords and then they have just useless rifles, still they're able to overpower these like 25 Jem'Hadar or whatever and kill them all and take their swords. So
yep, it was lucky.
That combined with just Omediclon just literally just kind of standing there looking at the ground while a guy sneaks up behind him kind of made me question the elite status of the Jem'Hadar. But
see, according to Robert Hewitt Wolf, this episode was written specifically to give the Jem'Hadar more depth. Mm-hmm. Our intention was to show that the more you learn about them, the less you want to be around them. If you meet the Borg on a 1-to-1 basis, they're kind of cuddly. And when you get to know Klingons, they're not so scary anymore. But the Jem'Hadar, when you really get to know them, are damn scary guys.
I don't know if they're scary. They're definitely dicks.
I do like the idea that the Borg are cuddly. I assume we're referring to like iBorg with that, but I mean, come on.
Yeah.
And then Robert Hewitt Wolf has a similar thing where he's just like, we wanted to spend some time with some Jem'Hadar who weren't screwed up, because the 2 times we spent any time with Jem'Hadar was the kid who's so young he doesn't know what he's feeling, and also the ones in Hippocratic Oath. So we wanted to show what a functional Jem'Hadar society is, because we know so much more about them than anyone does, and we wanted to get some of that information out there so the audience could understand them better. It seems that the more you learn about the Klingons, the less scary they are. The more you learn about the Cardassians, the less scary they are in some ways. We want, with the Jem'Hadar, is that the more you learn about them, the more scary they are. These are not the kind of guys you want to party with.
I can confirm I would not invite these guys to a party.
No, definitely not. So yeah, I just like, you're like, I'm less scared of the Jem'Hadar after this, and they were like, no, this is the episode where you're more scared of them. But yeah, back to the fight. Ira Stephen Bear says 32 seconds of violence was cut out. Lots of violence between the Jem'Hadar and the Federation. 32 seconds of nothing but action, and I wish it had happened. It kind of restored my faith in the Jem'Hadar, and I think it really makes them interesting. I thought Clarence Williams was good. That's who's playing Omediclon. We finally had Jeffrey Combs back. I thought it really filled in a lot of the Dominion backstory. It was a tense little episode. I just wish it had been 32 seconds longer.
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh, yeah.
Renee Shavaria says... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, we didn't mention, but yeah, Jeffrey Combs is back.
Yeah, exactly. Jeffrey Combs doing maybe his best yet. Right. I mean, it's hard to beat Pervert Alien.
Right.
But he's pretty great here.
I'm still clinging on to my Perv Alien, Liquidator Brunt, and Wayoon are all the same person theory.
Wayoon just got disintegrated.
Oh, don't worry. It'll...
So, I mean, I guess that means Pervert Alien can just never return.
Yeah.
That's a shame.
Yeah. We're never going to see Perv Alien. We're never going to see Perv Alien again. I'm sorry.
The stunt coordinator, Dennis Matalone, is in here. This episode should have been the biggest action show ever. We had all the manpower, and LeVar got it all on film. We made it violent and rich, just like Battle Lines and Blood Oath.
I mean, there was plenty of action in the episode. I wasn't watching this feeling like, oh, this there's no action in this episode. I'm going to write a letter and post it on the internet.
I'm always writing letters on the internet, man.
Because even when I was watching it, I was like, oh man, there's lots of guys getting stabbed and stuff. It's like, this is a little brutal for... I felt like it was more brutal than the...
Blood Oath?
Yeah, Blood Oath. Where they kept stabbing people and we never saw any blood.
Yeah, it's true.
And then on this one, they're just slicing and dicing left and right. And there's like bloody Jem'Hadar corpses laying all over the place.
Yeah, I mean, it gets to be a problem after a while. How are you going to step around all these dead Jem'Hadar?
I want to see the unrated cut of this episode.
the extra 32-second version? Yeah. Right.
It's like, finally, released for the first time, the extra 32-second cut of To the Death.
Ronald D. Moore says, the only criticism I have about To the Death is that I wish we'd been able to get the location that we used for The Quickening and use it there, because that was a tremendous location, a lot of production value, and it looked wonderful. To the Death was much smaller, not quite as sweeping. I like Clarence Williams, I always have, and I thought that he really personified the Jem'Hadar for the first time in a way that the audience could grab onto. The Jem'Hadar in a lot of episodes tend to bland out. Sometimes it's hard to differentiate between them. And Williams brought something to that performance that made him, at least, stand out among the race. Also, chopping and hacking has always been one of my favorite things. Not since Blood Oath has there been so much chopping and hacking.
I still feel like there was more than Blood Oath, but...
But mentioning The Quickening, apparently The Quickening, which is the next episode, was filmed before this one.
Okay.
So I guess, they just couldn't get that same location.
Highlander, The Quickening.
Yeah. You've ruined my thing at the end.
Oh no! I'll just edit that part out if I remember.
Okay, a couple more notes. Let's see. To the Death was the 5th episode of Deep Space Nine that LeVar Burton directed, and the first of his 5 to feature the Jem'Hadar. And he said, I had to look at previous episodes to understand who they were and what their relationship to the Founders is. Burton decided that Clarence Williams would be an excellent choice to play Omediclon. Burton commented, he's an old friend of mine, but we've never worked together before. This was just an opportunity to say, hey, CW, want to come and do this thing?
Oh, wow. He's on initials basis.
Yeah, exactly.
Not even just first name basis.
Nice to be able to cast your buddies. And I agree that Omediclon, I thought, did a pretty good job of acting there.
He did a good job playing that super annoying, humorless dick of a guy.
I believed him.
Yeah.
And then we come down to the Jeffrey Combs of it.
Excellent.
Of the character, Combs says, Wayoon is the snake of the universe. He's the smiling car salesman who will tell you anything to make you feel as if you're the most important thing in his life just to get you to buy his product. Combs commented that the performance He based the performance on a scene in Stanley Kubrick's 1975 film Barry Lyndon, which I've never seen. But
oh yeah, I'm always hearing about it, but I've never seen it.
It says, in that movie, two characters are being really formal and nice to each other, showing perfect etiquette, but under the surface, it's obvious they despise each other. So does that mean that Wei-un, like, despises
Odo?
Sisko?
Oh, Sisko.
Yeah, either way.
Yeah.
He always just seems in this episode so friendly, where he's like, yeah, I want to be best buddies.
Yeah. Yeah, too bad he's dead and he's never coming back. So
yeah, it is a shame.
We saw him vaporize into a million pieces, so there's no coming back from that. Yeah.
Later, Jeffrey Combs and Brian Thompson, who played Neck-Snapped Jem'Hadar, later appear in 3 Enterprise episodes together, playing Commander Shran and Admiral Valdor, respectively.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that was the Andorian guy, right?
Yes, Commander Shran is the Andorian guy.
Yeah,
I don't know who. I didn't watch this part of Enterprise, which I feel like at some point I'm going to go back and do that because so Admiral Valdor is a Romulan.
Oh, okay.
But like the beginning of Enterprise, I didn't find all that interesting, and so I kind of fell off of it pretty quickly. But later in the series, they really explore like the background of the Vulcans and Andorians and stuff, which is something that I would find interesting. So I may go back and watch that.
I never watched it like regularly. I would just catch it whenever it was on. I think it was on 9:00 some night. I don't remember.
I remember being excited when this new Star Trek series was coming out, and we like went to the movie theater premiere of the first episode, and then I left that being like, "Oh, really?
Wow.
Okay."
Did I go to that?
I don't recall. It was at the Paramount Theater. That's all I remember.
When it premiered?
Yes, it was like. Well, I guess technically it was before it premiered on the air, but yeah, like the week before or something. I think
I watched it on TV, so I don't think I went to that, but.
You may have been in Houston at the time. I don't recall exactly.
No, we were in high school, right?
When did Enterprise? No, not Enterprise Rental Cars premiere. Oh my gosh.
Ooh, they have a premiere service at Enterprise Rental Car?
September 26, 2001. So no, yeah, that would have been high school.
Wow, like 2 weeks after 9/11?
Wow, yeah.
They're like, this is the show the country needs right now. The new Star Trek show. Things are getting pretty dark. We need some Star Trek to lighten things up.
Yep, that'll do it.
Yeah, we all remember how Star Trek Enterprise saved our spirits after that horrible tragedy.
Star Trek Enterprise starts with like a horrible like attack on Earth. Doesn't it?
Doesn't it? No, it starts with like a
Klingon
guy crashes in the middle of a cornfield or something, and then a guy shoots him. Or something like that. I don't remember.
Oh, for some reason, I was feeling like the Xindi attack was... But yeah, I immediately... And then you said the same thing. I was like, there's a Klingon, right? So...
Which, okay, did that happen in Broken Bow, Oklahoma?
Yes, because the episode is called Broken Bow, and the Klingon named Clang crashes in Broken Bow, Oklahoma.
Yeah, someone was talking to me about how much they love going to Broken Bow the other day.
Okay.
And all I could think about was like, was that the town from Enterprise? Is that a real place? I had to look it up on a map.
Oh man, the temporal Cold War like comes into play right in the first... I mean, I don't remember this at all, apparently. What is in Broken Bow, Oklahoma that people would be interested in? There's
I don't even remember what
population 4,000 people. So
I think there's camping or something around there. I forget. I forgot what we were talking about.
The city was the location of the wounding and capture of murderer Richard Wayne Snell, who was apparently an American white supremacist. In 1984, following his shootout with local police, Snell had killed 2 men in Arkansas, a pawn shop owner and an Arkansas state trooper.
Oh,
well, glad they got him.
Yeah. Good job, Broken Bow. What were we even talking about?
We came from way.
We got a little off topic here.
Yeah, the guy. These 2 guys show up in some episodes of Enterprise, which is seasons after this first episode of Enterprise. But yeah.
Okay. So let's do our title rating, I guess.
Okay.
To the death.
To the death. What did you think?
Well, okay. Using these arbitrary criteria I came up with of memorableness, cleverness, and relevance, I'm going to say memorableness is pretty low because I keep forgetting it even in the middle of this review.
Fair.
Relevance, I'm going to give a medium low. And because I feel like you say to the death, it's like something in like the core of the episode should really hint at that or something. But it was just like these Jem'Hadar, they keep wanting to do everything to the death. And Sisko has to be like, no, we don't do stuff to the death. We're the Federation. So, I don't know. I'm not sold on the relevance. And cleverness, I'm not sold on either. So, overall, I think it's a little bit weak as an episode title.
I think cleverness and relevance are pretty like tied together in a lot of ways because it's like,
yeah,
if it's not relevant to the episode, it can't really be that clever because like it could be a really fun pun, but if the fun pun has nothing to do with the episode, then it doesn't feel clever. It feels like you were just like, I came up with a pun and I want to stick it in here.
Yeah, right. Like bar association.
Yeah,
bar association. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, there wasn't a bar association in the bar association episode. It just didn't have anything to do with the other meaning of bars.
It was anyway, like it was a fun pun. It just only worked on one level.
Yeah.
So okay, yeah, maybe cleverness is kind of like a subset of relevance. Yeah.
So my thought on the title is I like it as a title. I like To the Death as a title for something, partly maybe because it does immediately make me think of The Princess Bride. But
that's always worth bonus points.
I agree that it doesn't feel relevant. I'm like, nothing, because, and maybe it's because of that association that I have, but when you say To the Death, I'm thinking like, oh, we're talking about like a duel or something, like where two people have agreed to fight to the death. Like that's the point.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And so there's nothing like that in this episode where, I mean, I hadn't even thought of until you said it, that the Jem'Hadar are always wanting to do things to the death. Right. Whereas the Federation is like, no, why? There's no reason for you to die here.
It's like, we could literally just set a bomb and run away. What are you talking about?
Yeah. So, yeah, I don't feel like, and I'll agree that it's not particularly memorable, partly because, once again, that's also a little bit tied to relevance because it's memorable when the title stands out and the title connects to the episode well, because then you're like, I remember that title and I remember what episode that is from the title because of they connect with each other. Because this title doesn't connect to what the episode is about in my head, it's not memorable to me. And even having said I like it independently just as a title, I didn't remember that was the title of anything in Deep Space Nine until we got to the episode. So it's not, I don't find it memorable. I don't find it relevant. And as a result, I don't find it to be particularly clever.
Yeah. So pretty low marks for that title. So what's your feeling about the episode itself, To the Death?
So the episode itself. I like dipping back into this established universe stuff, which I feel like they've tried to move away from like referencing the Next Generation too much. Although when you bring Worf back in, it's like, well, now it's harder. We've got two people who are around for a lot of that. But they're putting their own spin on it, where they're building it into what is going on and making it relevant. They didn't just, hey, let's do another Iconian Gateway episode that doesn't have anything to do with anything else.
Right.
So I feel like that conceptually, I like what they did. I also like the concept of having to have our people team up with the Jem'Hadar and see that these pieces do not fit together well, and like see their whole point, they said, was to show us here's a group of Jem'Hadar operating the way Jem'Hadar are supposed to operate, and here's like what you can expect if you're having to face the Jem'Hadar. This is the kind of attitude they have, where they are perfectly happy to die if it means completing the mission. And that may even be their first option. They're like, well, maybe we can complete this mission without dying. But really, dying's going to clinch it. So we'll just jump straight to that.
Right.
Which I feel like that is a little bit intimidating there, where it's like, okay, I mean, we've kind of seen that with like the suicide run on the Odyssey when there was no reason to do that except for intimidation purposes.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, so there's a lot about the episode I like, and I think that Ometiclon did a great job. I think Jeffrey Combs does a great job. I feel like it kind of undermines that supposed premise of showing us the Dominion operating the way it's supposed to operate when you have him randomly assassinate the Vorta who's supposed to be in charge. It's like, okay, well, that doesn't feel like business as usual. Maybe it is. Maybe that happens all the time. A Jem'Hadar first just occasionally has to kill a Vorta, and nobody really cares. I don't know. But I also like when, despite calling out like how ridiculously bad things go and how quickly they go bad, I do like that we've come up with this detailed, intricate plan, and it just goes to shit immediately. Like the second we beam down, everything falls apart.
Right.
It turns a little unbelievable, like you say, when they manage to turn it around and still win without really any significant obstacle cropping up. So that brings it down a little bit for me. But overall, I really like the episode. I like the concept. I like the acting. I like a lot of stuff about it. I think it's going to be a solid commander for me. And if it hadn't been for some of the ridiculousness that it took to make the story work, it might have gone to captain.
Yeah. Yeah, like kind of like you and the some of the writers of the episode were saying, it's like it is kind of good to really kind of hammer home that these Jem'Hadar guys are they're not fun. You're not going to make friends with them ever, even though Dax kind of made friends with that guy. But it's like, yeah. And it kind of goes with the overall theme of the show is like there's just some forces you can't overpower with the power of niceness. They're just going to keep calling you pussies and lamos all the time until you just have to punch them. So, yeah, I think that was done pretty effectively in this episode. I think it was just a fun episode, mainly, is my thing with it. Like, you know, I like seeing a little bit of action, you know, even if it's totally ridiculous that they're just suddenly like, okay, forget the plan, just like run in there and stab everybody. And it works.
That'll play. Yeah.
So, all right, plan out the window, just grab some swords and go. My only real complaint about the episode is that some of the Federation Jem'Hadar stuff during like the training portion of the episode, I felt was a little tedious, but overall it was pretty fun. So I'll also give it a commander.
Okay.
It was just like the amount of times I just wanted to say like shut the F up when a Jem'Hadar said something was like a very high number.
Apparently, while we have been recording, Matthew Perry died.
Oh no!
He's found at his home, apparently having drowned.
Oh dear. Oh my gosh. Is this the first friend to have passed away?
I believe it is.
Oh my. Very sad breaking news. You heard it here first on Undeclared Bajor.
2 weeks later, whenever this will come out, yeah.
Matthew Perry, dead at 55 or
54,
however old he was.
You were very close. 54, so you were right there.
So rest in peace, Matthew Perry. Anyway, from the death of Matthew Perry.
Sorry, that was just it popped up on my screen, and I was like, "Oh, geez, okay."
Let me come up with an appropriate segue from that. So, what do we have to look forward to next time on Star Trek Deep Space Nine?
So next time, it's basically it's like Outbreak and Highlander.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow, Highlander and Outbreak. So look forward to that.
There's a monkey who's immortal in sword fights.
That's what I got out of that.
Yeah.
So.
Glad we were on the same wavelength.
Yeah. So yeah, you got any final thoughts? What episode of Friends aired this week?
Ooh, good question. Final thoughts. I'm happy with this episode. Like I established that already, but it's just like we're progressing the overall arc of the show that those of us who have seen it before know is coming. So maybe that's a spoiler in and of itself that like, hey, this is relevant to the long term of this show. If you hadn't figured that out, then I feel like you are the problem at this point. But I'm almost always happy with like when we go hard into like moving towards the bigger stories that we're doing, or progressing the bigger stories that we're doing.
The May 16th, 1996 episode of Friends was the one with Barry and Mindy's wedding.
Oh yeah.
Barry, if you'll recall, as my memory's being jogged, was the guy that Rachel walked out on
the first episode.
Yeah, in episode 1. So,
and Mindy is her best friend. And if I recall that episode correctly, it's like she finds out that Barry slept with Mindy like while the two of them were together, and then like, you know, the wedding the wedding's called off, and then like now before their wedding, Rachel sleeps with Barry, and then when Mindy finds out, she's like, whatever. He's like a rich orthodontist or something, so I'm fine.
That part is not in this Wikipedia article, but
maybe that's another episode. Or
there is
around the same time.
There is a B story about Chandler having an online romance that turns out to be Janice.
I do remember that. Yep.
Okay. Anyway,
it's always Janice.
We gotta wrap this episode up. So, if you made it this far, thank you for listening. Don't forget to check the description. Maybe something interesting in there. I'm Fletcher, about to say goodbye as Data.
Bye.
Until we meet again. Keep the blood wine warm and the prune juice chilled.